Dude, what? She was only 13?
But what is known, he started to tell Anna that he was the only one who cared for her and the only one who would protect her. That he was her new
textbook gaslighting.
Add the widely known phenomenon of Stockholm Syndrome to the mix, which is a condition where a hostage develops feelings of trust and affection towards their captor. He wanted to see how her thoughts, behavior, and body would change over time. He wanted to isolate her. Unfortunately, Kabu was busy with his own experiments too. The young man had become obsessed with brainwashing and hallucinogens. And after learning that morning glory flowers had hallucinogenic properties, he would frequently spike her drinks with them.
There's something I've been wanting to say lately.
Oh, what's that?
The end.
Alright guys, we are going to be watching the Hikikomori who kidnapped a teenager to be his human experiment. This cannot end well. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, Hikikomori in Japanese, let's just read the definition. Hikikomori, a form of severe social withdrawal called hikikomori, has been frequently described in Japan and is characterized by adolescents and young adults who become recluses in their parents' homes, unable to go to work or even go to school for months or years. So basically shut-ins.
In March 2014, a young student was making her way home from school. Her parents expected her to be home by around 4 p.m, but as the evening arrived, they realized that something was amiss.
No.
The young girl seemed to have vanished from thin air.
No! It's always, damn it! They always look like so full of life, which makes it like sadder, man. It's just like, look, like she's so cute and so young.
An eyewitness and hasty letters left behind suggested a very concerning story. And little did they know that their daughter had been kidnapped by a strange man with very bizarre motives.
Innocent.
But who exactly was Kabu Terauchi? What did he want from this young teenager? And what happened in the weeks, months, and years after? Welcome back to Coffee House Crime, folks. My name is Adrian.
I just hate how such a young person's life can just be taken away by some fucking creep, bro. For no reason.
We're jumping straight into this one today, folks, so please grab yourself a coffee, pull up a seat, and get ready for the deep dive. This is the case of Kabu Terauchi.
Here we go. I love his intro. Just a tangent. Like coffee house crime.
Today's story takes us 15 miles northwest of Japan's capital, Tokyo. And it's here that I can welcome all of you to Asaka City. Not to be confused with Cyberpunk's fictional megacorporation Arasaka. Asaka is, in fact, a real city found in the Saitama Prefecture, which is of course part of the greater Tokyo area. It's fairly remarkable to think that this city originally started off as a humble village with 4 post stations along a highway. It was in the year 1921 that Asaka was upgraded to town status.
Oh my
and
God.
Now, over 100 years later, it's home to around 150,000 residents. Due to its convenient
industrialization,
location, Asaka is primarily what's known as a bedroom community, with around 40% of its population using it as home while they commute to the Tokyo metro area for work. And with thanks to its geographic location, it is also one of northern Tokyo's main distribution hubs. Now, Asaka is rather affluent when it comes to education, and ranks quite highly amongst its neighboring cities, boasting 10 public elementary schools, 5 middle schools, 2 high schools, and one of Tokyo University's campuses. Schooling and teaching are of high priority to its citizens, and attending one of those 5 middle schools was first-year student Anna Saito. Now, Anna isn't
she was a
actually
first
her
year
real
too.
name. Much like the commonly used Western name Jane Doe, it's a placeholder name often used when the true name of a person is either unknown or hidden. Our story today begins in the year 2014, and born in the year 2001, Anna was 13 years old at the time. Not a lot is known about her former childhood or her
She was only
family,
13?
but what is known is that she grew up with both parents by her side in a comfortable home in Osaka. She was described as intelligent and witty for her age, and was also known to be kind and well-behaved. In other words, not one to break the rules or rebel against her parents. Overall, there was really nothing abnormal about her. She was sweet, liked to spend time with her friends, and was well-liked in school.
That's what I'm saying,
Teachers
man. Like,
described her as a
she was gonna be
clever
successful, bro. Just from the sound of it. Supportive parents, driven.
girl with a very prosperous future. She liked to participate in ballet, and although she was only in her first year of middle school, Anna showed a significant amount of commitment by becoming a member of the student council. Smart, promising, and punctual. These were the 3 words used to describe Anna. However, in March 2014, that final characteristic would, for want of a better word, disappear.
Because of a fucking loser. That's why.
March 10th, 2014. It was a Monday, and the weather was partly cloudy, with the low temperature dipping just below freezing. The time was 3:30 p.m. School had just finished for the day, and Anna was making her way home via her usual route. Although she was only 13 years old, she was trusted to make it back home safely by herself. You see, in Japan it is very normal for children to walk home from a very young age. Even without the tradition of trust, Japan is considered a very safe country to live in. Therefore, seeing a young child on their own walking home is nothing out of the ordinary.
Ooh, wait, quick pause. I do want to like refute that a little bit. So yes, those kind of East Asian countries like Japan, Korea, especially like in the city, like, yeah, they're safer than Western countries, like especially the United States of America. Holy shit. But the amount of videos that I've seen come from Korea and Japan of men who will actually like straight up follow or like tail women home at night, follow them to their apartment, and right as the girls getting into their apartment, run and like barge into the apartment as the girl's opening the door. Yeah, dude, it's scary. I don't know if you guys have seen those videos.
When Anna's parents returned home after their own long days at work, Anna was uncharacteristically
so like it's safe, but it still definitely has its dangerous characteristics.
Searches around the house and calling her name in the garden yielded no response back. And calling her friends and the school was not productive either, as no one had seen her. The Saito family were beginning to panic, and that is when they realized waiting for them in the post box was a letter. It didn't say much, but the handwriting was unmistakably hers, and written inside it said, "I'm taking a break from school and home. Don't come looking for me."
Jesus.
Now, this was highly out of character for Anna. She was a well-behaved young girl who would have never struck out on her own accord like this. Furthermore, if she did actually want to run away from her parents, then why did she leave all her favourite possessions and her essentials behind? None of this made any sense. The Saito family were very quick to report her disappearance to the authorities, and by nightfall, wanted posters were being displayed all across the local area. These posters highlighted that she was likely wearing a school uniform at the time of her disappearance. Unfortunately, the authorities didn't have a lot of leads to go on, and although a neighbour was able to confirm that they had seen her that afternoon, it didn't lead to any major breakthroughs. But alarmingly, the neighbour did highlight that she was speaking to a young man outside of her home, which led officers to believe that she was either abducted or had run away with him. But sadly, nothing more came from the sighting, and as the sun rose over Tokyo, Anna's family realized that this was so much more than just a nightmare.
Yeah, she was
Their
probably
daughter had
forced
vanished without a trace,
to
and
write
there
the
was
note.
nothing they could do. Hours soon turned into days, and as those passed, the family were getting increasingly desperate. But on the 9th day of her disappearance, another letter found its way to the Saito family's postbox.
Another one?
And this one read, "I'm doing fine. I apologize for causing so much stress. Don't look for me."
That's so creepy, bro. When you think about what's probably like the context behind these notes, like just her just saying, "Oh, I'm fine. Don't look for me. Don't look for me." That's literally the dude probably forcing her to write that. Knowing creepy ass motherfuckers like this, they probably think ahead like, no, if I write the note, if I write the fake note, they're going to recognize that it's not her handwriting. So she probably has this girl at like gunpoint or like with a knife to her neck, telling her, okay, yeah, write this right now. Tell them to not look for you, and then I'm going to send it to them.
Apologize for causing so much stress. Don't look for me. Investigators intervened to analyze the letter's handwriting, and although it was confirmed to belong to Anna, its mannerisms did not match the way in which she spoke. It was therefore theorized that she may have been forced to write this. The stamp on the letter confirmed that it was sent from Chiba Prefecture, located 25 miles east of Tokyo. Local officers were assigned to look into it, but their efforts would ultimately be fruitless. And although the family had hoped to receive another letter from Anna, their hopes would never come to fruition, because after this, Anna would go radio silent, and just like that, she disappeared.
As a parent, bro, I don't know how I'd react. As a parent,
unknown to the rest of the world, Anna had been abducted by a man named Kabu Terauchi. And
shit.
Kabu was a very strange and weird man. Born in the year 1992, Kabu was 22 years old at the time of Anna's disappearance. Originally from Aikida, located in Osaka Prefecture, he was raised in a wealthy family. Both parents were successful business owners, with his father owning a security company which specialized in physical home security components. This included things such as door locks, window fences, and rails. Now, Kabu did very well in high school and was often ranked at the very top of his class. However, he was known to be quiet and didn't have many friends either. And in fact, he seemed to be quite obsessive over particular things and sometimes came across quite creepy. He was even considered to be somewhat of a hikikomori and an otaku. For reference, Japan refers to hikikomori as a form of severe social withdrawal, characterized by teens and adults who are extreme recluses and are often unable to work or go to school. Otaku.
Oh, he literally just read the Google definition. And the only reason I would know that is because we read it right before this video. Recluses.
Otakus are people who are obsessed with particular aspects of pop culture, such as manga and anime. And in Kabu's case, this was anime. Kabu was ultimately very successful with his academics. He attended an aviation school in Tokyo before eventually moving to California, where he obtained his pilot's license from another
He went all the way to fucking California.
After graduating in September 2013, he then made the move back to Tokyo, where he undertook an engineering degree at Chiba University. While studying here, peers called him quiet, particular, and a little odd. But as far as they knew, he was happy enough. But no one knew of his new, dark and terrible secret. And from March 2014 onwards, he kept 13-year-old Anna captive in his home. During the days, he would attend classes and see friends as if nothing was happening, before returning to his home in the evenings to focus on his own human experiment. So, before we continue with this story, it may be worth asking ourselves what precisely happened in the lead up to Anna's sudden abduction. Well, it all began about 1 week prior. Kabu had long desired to abduct and observe a young female student. He wanted to see how her thoughts, behavior, and body would change over time. And furthermore, he wanted to isolate her from society and see how she would react under his own soul influence. He started his plan by searching for the optimal place to find a victim, doing this through an internet-based mapping application very similar to Google Maps. This is how he found a city that fit his criteria, and Asaka seemed to be the perfect place for him to carry out the abduction. It met all of the right conditions, since it was neither countryside nor too urban, and although Kabu was not familiar with the city, he was able to visit it in person and observe it online. Now that a location had been selected, he drove to Asaka to scope the place and its victims out. This is when he came across Anna Saito. He noticed that she often walked home alone from school, and recognized he could use this to his advantage. After following her, he decided to do some investigating, and after looking through the home's placard and various other items around the property, he learned of her actual name. It was 1 week later, on March the 10th, 2014, that he finally decided to kidnap her. It was a Monday, and at around 4 PM, Anna was walking home from school. And this is when Kabu approached her from outside of her own home. He tricked her into going with him by falsely telling her that her parents were
outside of her,
and that he was the family's
Jesus. He managed to track her all the way to her house, and then right outside her home, tricked her?
And with him by falsely telling her that her parents were getting divorced and that he was the family's lawyer. And furthermore, he was willing to take
What a fucking bitch! Dude, that's so it's smart, but in the way that like a sick fuck would be smart. It actually makes me feel ill. He used the fact that he's older to play the part of a lawyer of her parents for divorce.
To both of her parents, who were supposedly waiting at his
disgusting,
office. Since
bro.
Kabu knew Anna's full name, she unfortunately believed him and his story, and therefore agreed to get into his car. However, instead of going to an office, he then drove 40 miles from Asaka to his own home in Chiba. It was at this stage that Kabu had a new and very different story to tell her. He now claimed that her parents were actually planning on killing her. The family were supposedly now in debt, and they wanted to fix this by cutting out her internal organs and selling them on the black market. In addition to this, he presented a forged audio recording to her.
The manipulation. Holy what? He forged a recording?
In addition to this, he presented a forged audio recording to her, which allegedly revealed a discussion between her parents agreeing to such an idea. And this is where the real persuasion and manipulation began. He started to tell Anna that he was the only one who cared for her and the only one who would protect her. That he was her new savior, the only one she could rely on.
Textbook gaslighting, manipulation.
Nobody is coming for you. Nobody cares about you. You've been thrown away, and you're all alone. Over the weeks, months, and then years, this repeated narrative
so sad.
Factual
because in her last days, he made her believe that her parents hated her. He made her believe that. Imagine how hurt she must have felt.
This psychological phenomenon is actually quite common, and it even has a name.
Piece
The
of
illusory
shit, bro.
truth effect is the tendency to believe false information to be correct after repeated exposure. Repetition makes statements easier to process compared to new unrepeated statements, leading people to believe that the repeated conclusion is more truthful. Now, Anna was in an extremely influential stage of her life. At 13, she was old enough to understand the core workings of the world, but she was still rapidly learning new things within novel environments. She couldn't fully discern what was fact from fiction, and alongside his repetitive rhetoric, she started to believe Kabu. Add the widely known phenomenon of Stockholm Syndrome to the mix, which is a condition where a hostage develops feelings of trust and affection towards their captor, and she was evidently wrapped in a world full of confusion. Her mind was playing a game of
Stockholm
psychological
Syndrome.
warfare.
So you're trapped with your kidnapper for so long, you start to form positive thoughts about them.
Game of psychological warfare for many months and even years after this. And while she recognized that something wasn't quite right about her situation, she stayed put alongside him. Unfortunately, Kabu was busy with his own experiments too. The young man had become obsessed with brainwashing and hallucinogens, and after learning that morning glory flowers had hallucinogenic properties, he would frequently spike her drinks with them. Anna was confined to a single room within his apartment, which, as we know, was located 25 miles east of Tokyo in Chiba. The room was heavily guarded by Kabu almost all of the time,
Treating her
and
like a
although she was given
science
comforts and
project.
conveniences, he made it very hard for her to escape. For example, the bedroom door could only be opened from the outside, and all external windows and patio doors were locked. And ironically, the iron rails bolted on the outside of his property were actually proprietary to his own father's security business. Now, there were actually multiple occasions where Kabu forgot to close a window or door, and on these occasions, Anna wandered a short distance from the property, only to return before he got back home. Anna did find the courage and strength to escape during one of these ventures, but after approaching her mother and asking her for help, she said she had her own children to look after and shooed Anna away. Trying a second time several weeks later, Anna made her way to a local park where she found an old woman. But unfortunately, after asking for help, this woman refused and ignored her. Both of these occasions reinforced the narrative that no one cared about Anna, and that, furthermore, she had no better place to be than Kabu's apartment. And although
Why are people like that, bro? Just help someone. Just like, I
Kabu
don't
never
know.
found out about her ventures outside, neither did anyone else, with not a single neighbor noticing her exit the apartment or wander around the area. On occasion, Kabu would actually take her outside on small excursions. She sometimes accompanied him for dinner to a restaurant or to a supermarket, but she was always unable to escape because she was forced to hold his hand. This highly abnormal and dysfunctional dynamic continued for a large stretch of time, and by February of 2016, Anna Saito had been missing for almost 2 years. The burden and pain her mother and father felt was enormous. It is no
Dude, the
secret that a child
parents.
missing for that length of time is usually indicative of very bad news. But despite 23 months of silence, they still held on to hope.
23
She was still out
months.
there somewhere. Both of them could instinctively feel it. And Anna was indeed still alive, although under captivity, with Kabu still watching and observing her. In anticipation of his imminent graduation from Chiba University, he made the move from Chiba to an apartment near Higashi Nakano Station, found in Tokyo's Nakano ward. This move was the first one he had made in years, and Anna would go with him. Now, the apartment was nothing special, but it did do its job. Located a few floors up, it had a balcony and a somewhat restricted view of Tokyo. And hey, the bedroom that Anna was kept in even had a door handle this time, which is a very important detail to the next part of our story. Because that was when, on Sunday, March 27th, 2016, a very sudden and shocking twist in the story occurred. A phone call was made to the Saito residence, and
she gonna
after
escape?
Anna's mother picked up the receiver, a small voice responded back. It was Anna, and her mother instantly knew it was her. She hadn't heard her daughter's voice for 2 years, 2 weeks, and 3 days. Yet
How
here
would
she
you
was, on
react,
the other
bro?
end.
How would you react as the mom or the dad after 2 years of your daughter being missing? You get a random phone call, and it's her voice Dude, I would just break down crying. Like, my heart would be like...
The line. Anna had finally managed to escape from
pass
Kabu's
out.
home. After being told that he was heading to Asaka City to buy a mobile phone, she bided her time and checked the locks. Fortunately, he had forgotten to lock the door. And so, after waiting a few minutes, she grabbed 170 yen from the kitchen. About $1.30 or £1 sterling. After running out of the apartment, she found herself at Higashi Nakano Station. And after noticing the green public payphones, she made the call back home. Moments later, she called the police. She was wearing sandals and a thin set of clothes, which clearly was not enough to shield against Japan's cold winter. And after recognizing that she was the one in the missing posters, police officers then escorted her to Nitsa police station located in Saitama. And hours later, she was finally reunited with her parents. Miraculously, Anna was in pretty good health and in fairly high spirits.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, it doesn't look like she was, like, physically fucking beat, like, to the point where she'd have, like, permanent internal damage. She's still gonna have, like, trauma, of course. But he didn't do anything that would, like, fucking, like, ruin her physically, leaving her, like, incapacitated for the rest of her life.
She'd spent 2 years in captivity. Fortunately, she was not subject to any physical or sexual violence. Now, as far as these stories can go, the conclusion so far had been one of great happiness. Not only was she alive and uninjured, but it seemed as if she was not victim to any abuse either. However, there were other parameters that officers...
Thank you so much for the Prime sub.
...would now have to look at. And unfortunately, it became pretty obvious that her 2-year-long experience had greatly and negatively affected her mental health. Anna had developed a severe case of PTSD and anxiety. She was 2 years behind school.
That's the trauma,
and without
right there.
dressing it up, had lost 2 years of her childhood.
Oh no, okay, yeah, no. Let's not downplay it though. Like, yeah, it could have been so much fucking worse. But man, like, she missed out on prime years that she'll never get back. In school with her friends, and then the trauma, man. She has anxiety now and PTSD.
So although the initial conclusion seemed to be pretty good, the road to recovery would be long and uncertain.
Yeah.
Following her escape and the heavy presence of the authorities, Kabu knew he was in a shit ton of trouble, and in a panic, he escaped to the countryside to plan out his next move. He wouldn't get very far though, as at around 3 AM the next morning, he was finally detained by police officers. After they responded to an emergency call,
beat his ass.
Paper delivery man. He was found standing in the road with a box cutter covered in blood with a substantial laceration injury to his neck. He eventually admitted that he'd attempted to take his own life by slashing his neck with a box cutter.
And he fucking failed. All these motherfuckers always try to take the easy way out, and he fucking failed. Let's go. Beat his ass though. If I would have found him, Pound Town, bitch.
So blunt, all he did was manage to make a mess of it. Kabu was admitted to the hospital, discharged 3 days later, and then arrested immediately upon exit. After his arrest, Kabu admitted that he'd wanted to carry out a kidnapping ever since his young teenage years while in junior high school. He also admitted that on the night he tried to take his own life, he fled north to the countryside, got drunk on beer and whiskey, and then tried to use the box cutter. Found on the back of a receipt on his being were the words, "I committed a terrible crime," therefore suggesting his intention. But as we know, he would not get the results he wanted, and in return for his own life, he would now have to face the courts of Tokyo instead.
Good.
Now, Kabu had actually graduated from uni just 5 days before his arrest.
What a dumbass.
But before his trial even began, they would strip him of his degree and all possible merit. Moving into the legal proceedings of this case, Kabu's trial began in August 2017. However, the judge ultimately postponed a ruling after Kabu threw his trial into confusion.
What a
with
weird-looking motherfucker.
erratic behavior. Kabu made strange noises, spoke unintelligibly, shrieked as he entered the courtroom, and even claimed to be a fairy of the forest. He further claimed that he no longer
This lying, manipulative motherfucker was trying to play like he's mentally ill so that he could get a lesser sentence.
Understood Japanese and was now an amoeba, which is a single cell and often parasitic organism that can invade a host and sometimes even consume brain tissue. It's not entirely clear if this was an act to appear insane or if he had truly lost the plot.
He's
a psychiatric
acting, bro.
evaluation conducted by the court found that he did in fact have a mild case of autism, but there were otherwise other conditions.
I don't give a fuck. He was definitely high functioning. He was high functioning, and he has a proven history of lying to this girl, manipulating in order to get his way. He's doing the same here. Manipulating you to think that he's insane in the head.
Conclude on. Prosecutors claimed that Kabu should be held liable, as the kidnapping and confinement of Anna Saito was deliberately planned and executed. But his defense countered this, arguing that he should not be held responsible for his actions as he was suffering from schizophrenia. The judge, who ultimately ruled the decision, commented that the defendant was aware that his actions were both wrong and illegal, as he made multiple attempts to prevent them from being revealed. One of these attempts included the use of a stolen number plate during the abduction. The judge further said, the confinement lasted for a significantly long period of time, dealing an unimaginable blow to the victim by depriving her of her precious time.
Exactly.
The defense argued that Anna's account suggested there was no physical violence or verbal or sexual abuse during her confinement. But Anna's own psychological review was not so positive. It concluded that she had developed a severe case of PTSD as a result of his actions. And even a year after her release, she was still suffering from debilitating flashbacks and was still struggling to readjust to society. She furthermore had severe social issues, struggled to connect to people, and was often too scared to go outside alone. Kabu himself argued that he'd only committed the crime because, quote, the instructions were sent to my brain, and he also said that he was very sorry to the examination subject. When asked why he was calling her that, he said he considered his crime to be an experimentation, and he further added that he wanted to treat her as an animal, not as a human being. On March 12, 2018, the Saitama District Court sentenced Kabu Tadauchi to 9 years in prison for his role in abducting and imprisoning Anna. But there appeared to be some contention on both sides of this verdict. While the public prosecutors demanded a minimum term of 15 years, Kabu unsurprisingly wanted less and appealed.
At least fucking 20, bro. Make him come out of prison as a middle-aged man with, like, basically his prime just gone. You're just cooked for the rest of your life.
And to really rub salt in the wound, in February 2019, they readjusted his sentence to 12 years instead, nullifying the lower court ruling of 9. With his arrest,
so he got a little bit more years, but still not
half of his sentence
not that
bars.
much.
He is scheduled to be released from prison in the year 2028. In the meanwhile, Anna has moved
on. In 2028, he's going to be free.
27 by the time he is released. Anna's father said that, deep down, he believed that...
Oh yeah, so she's like my age. She's going to be 27 into... Oh no, she's 1 year younger than me, basically. Yeah.
She would return home. Seeing her for the first time in 2 years, his first words to her were, "You hung in there. Welcome back." Speaking to the press, her father shared, "I am really relieved. I want to spend time with my daughter so that we can regain the time we've lost." Anna claims that one of the many things which gave her hope was being aware of her parents' efforts and actions throughout the months and years. She'd become aware of their activities via the internet.
W fucking parents, bro.
So I think that just about wraps up our case today, folks. But what are your thoughts on this case? Do you think Anna will be able to make a full recovery? And do you think Kabu should have had a longer sentence?
Just to answer those two questions that he asked at the end, I do think she's gonna be okay. Like, she's obviously gonna have, like, he lost that time. She's gonna have anxiety. Her PTSD will improve. Nah, dude, but that guy, I'm telling you, minimum 20 years. I would have fought for 20 years, at least. It was an okay ending. He got punished. He needed to get punished more. And she came out not too fucked. The shit that she was left with isn't anything that's gonna leave her, like, incapacitated and unable to live life. And for that, I'm, like, really glad.